this tells me how strong this could be based on what the computer models are seeing. Okay, I know it's kind of, there's a lot of lines here, there's a lot of stuff going on, but almost all of the models over time bring it into this green shading you're seeing here. Okay, so then that's tropical storm force. So almost all of the models are making this a tropical storm.
With Tropical Storm Bret approaching, I decided that I needed to prioritize getting my motor running smoothly. In case my anchor or any lines that I had broke, I wanted to make sure that I could start the motor up and reposition the boat to make sure I didn't go into a reef or land or something like that. The previous week, I'd started to replace the impeller, but I needed to go buy some new items for it, specifically a gasket because it was leaking so much.
Holy guacamole, it is hot. I've got some serious swamp ass going on right now.
Having purchased all the items I needed to replace the impeller, I headed back to the boat. But first, I had to clean all of the saltwater corrosion off the impeller housing.
This is the plate for my impeller casing, and I want to try to remove this corrosion. Now I'm told that vinegar with some water does the trick, so let's see. The vinegar and water solution didn't work that well. But I looked online, and if you mix vinegar with salt, then it makes an acid that eats away at the corrosion. So that's looking really good. When I put it in the solution, you could see the corrosion bubbling away.
Okay, let's get here. This is Thursday and Friday again, so starting Thursday morning, Guadeloupe, Dominica, and Martinique. And this system has the likelihood to pass right over, and it could be right over Barbados and St. Lucia as well. So Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, again, tropical storm to hurricane preparations, okay?
With my motor working smoothly again, I decided it was time to move the boat into a hurricane hole. There's a hurricane hole around 100 meters from where I currently was anchored, and during the week I'd seen multiple boats moving themselves in, preparing for the storm. The downside to my boat is the windlass doesn't work yet, which means I have to pull up the anchor by hand, all 33 kilograms of it, which is around 70 pounds. It takes a long time, and it's a good workout, but it's not fun. Unfortunately, I ended up having to do this twice today because when I went into the hurricane hole, I put the anchor down but wasn't happy with how it set or where I was, so I pulled it back up and then did it again. I got a good workout that day.
It's Wednesday night, and I'm super tired. The last 2 days have been spent preparing for Tropical Storm Bret. Currently, I'm tied up to the mangroves in a hurricane hole, and so I should be pretty safe. Pretty physical days. I had to pull the anchor up by hand because my windlass doesn't work properly. I do that twice today. Going into the mangroves, I sliced my finger open on a razor sharp clam that was living on one of them, and that bled everywhere. And then I sliced up my feet a little bit, not so bad, on other stuff in the mangroves. And then I dove on my anchors to make sure they're set properly. And when I came out, I blew my nose and a bunch of blood came out. So it's been a bloody day. And I didn't have time to clean my anchor as I was pulling it up. So now the boat kind of smells like sea because of where the anchor goes. So I'm going to have to clean that at some point. Whew, just a lot. I'm very thankful for my friend Jed. Jed has been infinitely generous with his time and patience. I think picked him up today at 8 to start doing stuff, and we didn't get back to his boat until 3 p.m. So it was a full day and a lot of physical work. Gonna try to get some sleep now. It's less windy by the mangroves, which is good for a storm, but it means sleeping's a little bit harder. But luckily there's not a ton of bugs, which I was afraid would happen.
Martinique, we should have some of the worst weather. Same thing with St. Lucia. You see this white shading, easily winds anywhere from 80 kilometers to 110 kilometers.
The day started out pretty sunny and good weather. It was a little hot, but not too bad. A lot of boats had come into the hurricane hole and tied themselves up to the mangroves. A few of them decided to anchor out there. I decided to make use of the good weather to try to get rid of the stink in my chain locker. So I pulled the rest of the chain out and then started cleaning it with salt water. I also used a brush to try to brush away any muck or shells that I could. I had a little bit of success. The day alternated between strong winds and a lot of rain, and then being sunny. So between the rain, I would make use of the time to check my setup and adjust anything.
It's a little after 4. According to the weather forecast, the Tropical Storm Bret should be starting to get pretty bad soon. The winds have been sort of sporadic, gusting quite a bit, but now the time between gusts is getting shorter. It's around 7 o'clock. I feel pretty protected in here. I saw one boat gave up on its anchor and it's doing a last minute tie up to the mangroves. Looks like it got some help. And I've been listening to the VHF.
Security, security, security.
And it sounds like there's a catamaran that is sinking out there. I think it's on the water towards St. Lucia. I'm not sure. I hope everyone's okay, but they did a mayday. Or I heard a mayday probably 10 minutes ago, and I'm hearing the Coast Guard respond. A lot of it is in French, so I don't know exactly what they're saying, but you can tell a mayday. I decided it was a good time to actually cook my first meal on Blooper. The previous owner was very nice, and he left me some food that was jarred so it lasts a while. I'm gonna think, so this is eggplant in some sort of tomato sauce, and then there's some pasta. I'm gonna try that. Looks about how I envisioned it. I wish I had some cheese though. It's around 11 o'clock and I went outside to adjust my dinghy. There's some pretty strong gusts of wind out there. My lines seem to be holding just good, but I can hear some branches moving as the boat moves. But it's kind of funny, every time a really strong gust came through, you could see all the flashlights on everyone's boats lighting up as they went and check all their lines. I haven't seen any boats float away or anything like that, but it's pretty dark out there. At least all my neighbors are still here. Well, the storm passed. I think it went further south than it was originally predicted. For the most part, I slept through the whole night. It was supposed to rain a lot today, and it only seemed to really rain for about 2 hours, starting at like 3:30 a.m. to 5 or 6.
Bret went really smooth for me, and I wasn't sure if it was just because I was in such a protected area. So I decided to dinghy out and see what the rest of the bay looked like. It looked pretty much the same as the day before. It looks like we got pretty lucky with Bret just not hitting land as hard as people predicted, which is pretty good. The only damage I know of is this white boat got kissed a bit by this blue catamaran. Reflecting on this past week, I was not prepared enough for a tropical storm, and I definitely wasn't prepared if Bret had developed into a hurricane. Martinique is kind of a strange place in that it so rarely gets hit by heavy storms. There's a false sense of security here that everything will be okay. Hopefully this season continues with that trend, as I have a lot of stuff I still want to do on the boat, and I don't want to have to leave Martinique. But if a strong storm does come, I will have to pick up and motor or sail away